Hey everyone, my name's Zango, and in this video we are attempting a Pokemon Black 2 Hardcore Nuzlocke with only Monotype Pokemon. Now, as far as I'm concerned, this challenge has never been done on YouTube before, so I'm going to be using the regular Hardcore Nuzlocke rules that I'm leaving in the description of this video, and I will only be able to catch Monotype Pokemon. Monotype Pokemon are Pokemon with only one typing, and since Black 2 has a fair bit of them, I should have a lot of Pokemon in this run. This will not make my run easy though, seeing as most of these Pokemon have pretty bad stats and are pretty bad overall. There's really only a handful of good Pokemon I can access in this entire run, so I'll have to make sure I can keep them up throughout the entire game. With that all being said, I actually have to start the game first, so I name myself Zango and I make my way to get my first Pokemon of this run. For this run, I've decided I'm going to be using Oshawott. The main reason for this is that grass really isn't that good in this generation, and a strong water type can help me out a lot during this run. I decide to nickname him Neptune, and I find out he has a docile nature, which isn't good or bad. After that, I decide to fight my rival, who really isn't that hard, and he really won't be throughout the entire game. Once I'm finished up with him, I make my way to catch my first Pokemon. This Pokemon ends up being a Purloin that I name Void. Since there's a massive amount of possible encounters in this game, I've decided that I'm only going to be including the important encounters I get on each route. With that being said, I do some more story and make my way to Flossie Ranch where I catch a Mareep. Mareep evolves into Ampharos, and Ampharos can really carry me throughout a lot of gyms in this run. I decided to name my Mareep Amps, and I make my way to fight my rival again. This once again really isn't a challenge as I beat him pretty swiftly, I do some more story, and then I make my way back to challenge the first gym. Cheren leads the battle with a Patrat as I lead with Neptune. I do a little bit less than half with a water gun as he goes for a workup. On the next turn, I do the same thing, going for a water gun, bringing him to 1 HP as he hits me really hard with a tackle. He goes for a potion in the next turn, but his fate is already sealed as I go for 2 more water guns, killing the Patrat, leading into his final Pokemon, Lillipup. Lillipup's faster than me as he goes for a workup on the first turn, and I go for a water gun, doing moderate damage. He then hits me with a tackle, bringing me to 14 HP as I heal up with my Oranberry and go for a water gun, bringing him to about a third. If I would have gotten crit here, I would have had to reset, but thankfully I don't as he brings me to 6 HP with a tackle and I'm able to finish him off with a water gun, winning me my first gym badge of this run. After that gym battle, I immediately make my way to get my next 2 encounters of this run. The first one of these 2 is a Patrat on Route 20, and after I catch it, I name it Fang. Additionally, after that, I make my way into Verbank City and then Verbank City Complex, and I catch my next Pokemon, Growlithe. There was a chance I encountered a Coughing here, and I'm very happy I didn't, because Coughing sucks and Growlithe really could help me win this run. I name my Growlithe Pyro and make my way to challenge the second gym. Roxy leads the battle with Coughing as I lead with Neptune. On the first turn, I hit her really hard with a Razor Shell, and she does pitiful damage with an Assurance. I then decide to hit her with a water gun, bringing her into the red as she hits me for pitiful damage again, this time with a tackle. She heals as I'm then able to take her out with 2 water guns, leading into her final Pokemon, Whirlipede. Whirlipede tries to delay the inevitable by going for a ton of protects, but in the end, I finish her off with 3 water guns, winning me my second gym badge of this run. After I beat that gym, I then make my way to what is everybody's favorite part about Generation 5, Pokestar Studios. I fall asleep during that sorry cinema performance and make my way to battle Team Plasma so I can get into the next city. Team Plasma is a joke as usual, and after I defeat them, I make my way into Castelia City. Once here, I deal with Team Plasma again, and I catch a Pokemon in Relic Passage. This Pokemon is Roggenrola, and the reason I'm getting it so early is so that I can't get it later in this run. I name Roggenrola Rubble, and I make my way to catch my next Pokemon in Castelia City Park. I was really hoping this encounter would be Eevee, but sadly it's not, and I end up catching a Cottonee. I name the Cottonee Blossom, and I make my way to challenge the third gym. I lead the battle with Pyro as Berg leads with Swadloon. Pyro then tears Swadloon apart with a Flame Wheel, and he brings in his next Pokemon, Dwebble. In all reality, I probably should have switched here into Rubble, but I decided not to, so I stayed in with Pyro and went for a Flame Wheel. It really doesn't do much, only about a third as Dwebble sets up with a Rock Polish. Dwebble then slams me to the ground with a Smackdown, and it does a lot of damage, activating my Oranberry. I then hit Dwebble super hard with a Flame Wheel, bringing him down to a third as he hits me super hard with a Smackdown, bringing me to 8 HP as I'm able to finish him off with a Flame Wheel. He sends out Leavanny last, and I go for a Fire Fang thinking I'm faster. I quickly find out that I am not, as Leavanny misses a Razor Leaf and I'm able to get off a Fire Fang, winning me my 3rd gym badge of this run. I took way too many unnecessary risks there, and I could have just switched to Roggenrola and all of that would have been avoided. I'm going to be looking to better my strategies in the future because that was really bad. Regardless, after that happens, I head to the Desert Resort and we get to see the return of Cheerio. Once we got our old friend back on the team, we make our way to challenge the next gym. This gym really won't be that hard, especially considering we have Rock Tomb and Dig, meaning this gym should basically be a sweep. With all that being said, I challenge gym leader Elisa. I lead the battle with Cheerio as she leads with Emolga. Immediately, Emolga hits me with a quick attack, not doing much as I hit her with a Rock Tomb, doing more than half. Emolga almost does no damage again, and I'm able to take her out with a Rock Tomb, leading into her next Pokemon, Falafi. I go for a Magnitude, doing about 2/3 as she goes for a takedown, not doing much damage. I then go for one final Magnitude, taking out Falafi, leading into our final Pokemon, Zebstrika. Since at level 30 Cheerio learns Dig, I'm able to one-shot the Zebstrika and win me my 4th gym badge. After that gym, we deal with Team Plasma once more, and we make our way to Driftmill City. We watch Team Plasma fight Team Plasma, and then we go get our next Pokemon of this run. This Pokemon actually comes from Team Plasma, and it's a Zora. It wouldn't let me nickname it for some reason, but it's fine as I don't really count this as a run killer. Since there's really nothing else to do here, and I really don't want to go to Chargestone Cave and catch a Pokemon early, I decide to fight the 5th gym. Clay leads the battle with Krokorok as I lead with Neptune. Shockingly enough, Krokorok is actually faster than me, so he gets a hit off before I one-shot him with a Water Pulse. Since he lowered my defense with a Crunch, I'm very scared of this up-and-coming Sandslash. Sandslash is a really powerful Pokemon and can do a lot of damage if I'm not careful. Sandslash is actually faster than me as well, and he hits a Crush Claw before I can get off my Water Pulse. It does a ton of damage, bringing me to 19 HP as I'm able to one-shot. This in turn leads into his final Pokemon, Excadrill. There's not a chance Neptune survives any attacks from this thing, so I'm forced to switch. I decide to switch into Blossom as I get hit with the Slash on the switch in, not doing too much damage. I set up a Leech Seed on the next turn as he brings me a little low with a Bulldoze. On the next turn, he goes for a Crush Claw, doing a lot of damage as I go for a Stun Spore, paralyzing him in the process. One Giga Drain then brings him into the red as he heals with a Citrus Berry and he does minimal damage with a Bulldoze. After that, it's definitely a wrap as I'm able to get off one more Giga Drain, winning me my 5th gym badge of this run. After the gym, I fight in the Driftmill City tournament and fight Team Plasma. After this, I make my way to Mastrulian Cave to get my best encounter of this run. This Pokemon is Axew, and he should help me out a ton in the remainder of this run. Sadly, he actually evolves pretty late, so I won't be using him until about the 7th gym of this run, but still, he should still help me out a ton, seeing as he deals with almost all of Iris's team and a lot of the Elite Four. While I'm trying to catch him, he actually kills Fang, so that's our first death of the run, but I honestly don't even care, seeing as he is way better than Fang will ever be. I catch him and find out he has a quirky nature, and I decide to name him Typhon. I then make my way to Chargestone Cave, and I find a Clink. I name my Clink Alloy, and he should be really good in this run as well. I leave Chargestone Cave and find myself in Mastrulian City. Here, the only thing I do is catch a Zebstrika that I name Shockwave and make my way to challenge the next gym. I lead the battle with Zoroark as she leads with Swoobat. I'm faster than Swoobat, so I'm able to get off one Night Slash, one-shotting the Swoobat, leading into her next Pokemon, Swanna. I hit her with a Night Slash, doing a little bit above half, as she hits me really hard with an Air Slash, doing about the same. Air Slash has a pretty high crit chance, so I decide to switch into Alloy. Swanna actually decides to heal here, so I'm just able to go for a Charge Beam on the next turn as she goes for a Bubble Beam. Bubble Beam actually does a lot more than expected, which is a little bit scary as I only do about half of her health with a single Charge Beam. She hits me with another Bubble Beam, bringing me to 37 as I'm able to get off one more Charge Beam, finishing off the Swanna. This in turn leads into her final Pokemon, Skarmory. Immediately, I'm able to get off a critical hit Charge Beam, bringing him to 1 HP, activating his Sturdy. On the same turn, she hit me for about no damage with a Steel Wing. I really didn't need to switch here, but I do, and I decide to switch into Shockwave. She doesn't hit me for any damage on the switch in, as she heals with a Hyper Potion. I then get off a Flame Charge, doing about a fourth as she goes for an Agility. The same thing happens again on the next turn as I go for a Flame Charge, bringing her to about half, as she hits me with no damage going for an Agility. She's faster than me now, and hits me for only 16 damage with a Steel Wing, as I'm able to one-shot her with a Discharge, winning me my 6th gym badge of this run. Once that gym is over with, I make my way to Reversal Mountain in Skyla's private jet, and we head to Undella Town. Once in Undella Town, the sole thing to do here is to challenge my rival. He leads the battle with Unpheasant as I lead with Shockwave. He protects from the first discharge I throw at him, but he can't from the second, so I do a lot of damage bringing him into the red as he goes for a taunt. I then go for a flame charge on the next turn as he heals, and I'm able to get off one more discharge, finishing off the Unpheasant. After that, he then sends out his next Pokemon, Superior. I go for 2 flame charges as she hits me for 2 leaf blades, and this brings us both pretty low. At this point, I'm faster than her, and I really don't know what to do as she has very low health, and I'm not sure if I can one-shot with a flame charge. Unfortunately for me, I'm not able to one-shot with a flame charge, bringing Superior to 1 HP as I get hit with a leaf blade, killing Zipstrika. With Shockwave gone, I'm able to switch into Zoroark, and I take out the rest of his Pokemon. This was really unfortunate for Shockwave and really dumb on my part. I could have saved Shockwave easily just by switching into another Pokemon, but I decided not to. I have a lot of Pokemon I can burn in this run, and I already have an electric type, so it's not that bad that I lost Shockwave, but still. After that gym battle, I then go on to Route 14 and I catch my next Pokemon, Menfu. He evolves into Menshao, which can actually be really useful in the Elite Four of this run. I catch him and name him Bruiser, and I find out he has a rash nature, which is pretty meh. I go to the next town to do some more story and deal with Team Plasma. After I do that though, there's nothing standing between me and the next city of this run, Opelucid City. In Opelucid City, there's not really much to do, so I decide to challenge the 7th gym of this run. Draco leads the battle with Druddigon as I decide to get my revenge with Cheerio. On the first turn, I set up a sword stance as he hits me for minimal damage, and I'm able to one-shot him on the next turn with an Earthquake. He sends out Flygon next, and he hits me with an Earth Power really hard, bringing me below half as I hit him with a Crush Claw, bringing him to exactly half. I'm 100% slower, so I decide to switch into Blossom. As I'm setting up with Blossom, Flygon actually hits me with a Dragon Tail, switching me into my Haxorus. This is actually awesome as I'm able to one-shot Flygon's remaining health with the Dragon Claw, leading into his final Pokemon, Haxorus. His Haxorus is faster than mine, but he decides to go for a Dragon Dance rather than killing me, so I'm able to get off a Dragon Claw, winning me my 7th gym badge of this run. Kyurem and Team Plasma freeze up Elucid City, but I don't really care that much, so I decide to get through that as quick as possible, and I make my way to the next gym. Once I'm here, I have a few close calls actually in the gym, but I end up getting out of them just fine as I challenge Marlin. He leads the battle with Caracosta as I lead with Blossom. I decide to set up a Leech Seed on the first turn as he goes for a Shell Smash. After that, it's an easy one-shot with a Giga Drain, leading into his next Pokemon, Wailord. Wailord's a little bit more difficult since he has Bounce, but I decide to set up with Leech Seed anyways. I then move on to Paralyze him in the next turn, and he goes for a Bounce. Since I'm not really looking to lose Blossom, I decide to switch into Amps. Bounce almost does no damage as I heal up with a Leech Seed and I go for a Discharge. Wailord's left with only a Sliver as I get hit with a Scald, burning me in the process. Marlin heals with a Hyper Potion as I go for a Discharge, not doing too much, so I decide to switch into Blossom. Blossom doesn't get hit due to his paralysis, and I'm able to get off a Giga Drain in the next turn, finishing off the Wailord, leading into his final Pokemon, Jellicent. Just to play it safe, I decide to Stun Spore the Jellicent on the first turn as she gets fully paralyzed. Then, to be even more safe, I shoot off a Leech Seed as she goes for an Ominous Wind, not hitting me for much. On the next turn, I end up getting a crit with a Giga Drain as she hits me for almost no damage with an Ominous Wind. I'm then able to get off one more Giga Drain, winning me my final gym badge of this run. From here, there is way too many Team Plasma members to fight, so I'm gonna only include the important battles. While I'm on the ship for the first time, I decide to battle Team Plasma member Zinzalin, and it goes pretty badly. The only real reason for this is that I decided to lead with Cheerio. I decide to go for an Earthquake as Cryogonal goes for an Ice Beam, and since I'm slower, I get nailed and I get one-shotted. There was a lot I did wrong here. Earthquake wouldn't even have hit the Cryogonal because he has Levitate. I didn't look at Cryogonal's stats before the battle either, so I didn't realize he was so incredibly fast. This all added up to lead to me killing Cheerio for the second time in a row. After Cheerio's death, that battle goes pretty easily, and I make my way to the next Team Plasma fight. This fight occurs in Giant Chasm, and while I'm here, I make my way onto Team Plasma's floating ship, and I guess the password about 100 times. After I learn how to spell Reshiram, I then fight Chloris. This battle actually ends up being remarkably easy, as I have a lot of counters to a lot of Pokemon on his team. This battle usually is one of the hardest in this place, so I'm glad I got through it with no deaths. After that fight, the only thing left to do is to fight Kyurem and Ghetsis. I start the battle against Kyurem with Typhon and immediately go for a Dragon Claw, doing a lot of damage as I get hit with the Dragon's Breath, also doing a ton. Since I already know I'm faster than Kyurem, I'm able to just get off one more Dragon Claw, finishing off the Kyurem and leading into my Ghetsis fight. For this battle, I lead with Typhon as he leads with Cofagrigus. I set up with a Sword Stance as he sets up with a Toxic. On the next turn, he protects from my Dragon Claw, making me take even more damage from Toxic. That's the last we see of Cofagrigus in this fight, as I'm able to one-shot with the Dragon Claw on the next turn. He sends out Hydreigon next, and since I'm 5 levels higher, I'm able to one-shot with a Dragon Claw. Seismitoad's next, and he experiences the exact same fate as everybody else, getting one-shotted by a Dragon Claw. He sends out Drapion next, and I've already taken so much damage from Toxic that now I'm forced to switch. I decide to switch into Bruiser, and I get hit really hard with a Poison Fang, bringing me down to 104. I then go for a Drain Punch, bringing him to about half as he hits me with an Earthquake, doing about the same as Poison Fang. Sadly, on the next turn, I get a really low damage roll, and Drapion lives. Ghetsis then hits up a full restore as I'm able to get off another Drain Punch, doing roughly half again. I then go for another Drain Punch, but it doesn't end up killing, again bringing him to 1 HP. He decides not to heal in the next turn though, so I'm able to take him out with another Drain Punch. He switches into Electros next, and again I do about half with a Drain Punch. On the same turn, I get hit for massive damage from a Thunderbolt, bringing me to 42 HP. I then make the decision to go for a high jump kick to hopefully one-shot the Electros' remaining health, which I do, leading into his final Pokemon, Toxicroak. To play it safe, I decide to U-turn switch into Neptune, and I go for 2 Surfs, finishing off the Toxicroak, winning me my final battle against Team Plasma. After this, I'm then forced to go through this really awkward cutscene between N and Ghetsis, but I get through it just fine, and I make my way to Victory Road. Once here, I blast through the competition, and I make my way to my final rival battle. I lead my final battle against Hugh with Amps, as he leads with Unfezant. I go for a Discharge as he switches out with a U-turn, switching into Bouffalant. Bouffalant gets hit for about a third with Discharged, and he gets paralyzed. On the next turn, I go for a Discharge again, doing another third as Bouffalant gets stunned by paralysis. I then get off one more Discharge, killing the Bouffalant, leading into his next Pokemon, Simisear. Simisear does a ton of damage with a Flamethrower, bringing me down to 69 HP as I'm able to get off a Power Gem, bringing him just below half. Since I'm a little bit worried, I decide to switch Amps into Typhon. He takes that Flamethrower really nicely as I'm able to take out the Simisear on the next turn with a Dragon Claw, leading into his next Pokemon, Superior. Superior is barely able to do any damage to me with his pitiful Leaf Blade as I'm able to take it out with 2 Dragon Claws, leading into his final Pokemon, Unfezant. For this, I decided to switch into Neptune, but he gets confused, so I decide to switch out into Alloy. Alloy gets confused as well, and I hit myself with Confusion on the first turn, but thankfully I get through in the second, and I'm able to hit a Discharge, doing a lot of damage and paralyzing. Shockingly enough, I don't hit myself with Confusion, and I'm able to get another Discharge off. This Discharge brings the Unfezant to 1 HP as I get hit super hard with a Facade. Even though I know the Unfezant's gonna heal, I decide to switch out anyway because Facade did a lot of damage. I switch into Pyro, and I go for a Fire Fang on the next turn as Unfezant misses a Swagger. I then go for an Extreme Speed, and the Unfezant gets paralyzed, so I'm able to get off one more Extreme Speed, winning me my final battle against my rival. This in turn is the final battle before I challenge the Pokemon League. With all that being said, I challenge Pokemon Black 2's Elite Four using only Monotype Pokemon. I decide to start my Elite Four journey with Chantal. She leads the battle with Cofagrigus as I lead with Neptune. I go for a Surf, bringing Cofagrigus down to half as she hits me with a Shadow Ball, doing a little bit of damage. I take out the Cofagrigus with one more Surf as she brings out her next Pokemon, Drifloon. Thankfully, I figured this was gonna happen, so I gave Neptune an Ice Jam before the battle started. However, I did not predict she would be faster than me, as she hits me for a massive Thunderbolt, doing a ton of damage, bringing me into the red. I'm able to one-shot with an Ice Beam, but since I'm brought to 7 HP, I'm forced to switch when she brings out her Chandelure. Since I know he's going to go for an Energy Ball, I decide to switch into Typhon. Typhon takes a fair bit of damage even though it was not very effective, and on the next turn I decide to go for a Rock Slide. It unfortunately does not kill, bringing the Chandelure a little bit below half, but thankfully she actually flinches. This gives me an easy kill on the next turn with another Rock Slide, leading into her final Pokemon, Golurk. I don't have anybody good to switch to here, so I'm kind of forced to stay in with Typhon. I hit the Golurk with a Dragon Claw, doing more than half as Golurk hits an Earthquake and it does not crit. So I'm able to get off one more Dragon Claw on the next turn, winning me my first Elite Four battle of this run. After that battle, I decide to fight the next Elite Four member, Grimsley. He leads the battle with Lipard as I lead with Bruiser. He goes for a Fake Out on the first turn, making me flinch, as on the next, he goes for an Aerial Ace, bringing me down to 54 HP. I'm then able to one-shot his Lipard with a single Drain Punch, leading into his next Pokemon, Bisharp. Fighting is 4 times super effective against Bisharp, so I'm able to get off a single Drain Punch, one-shotting the Bisharp. Once the Bisharp's down, he sends out his next Pokemon, Krookodile. When Krookodile comes in, he lowers my attack with an Intimidate, so I'm gonna have to do some big damage to be able to one-shot this thing. Thankfully, I've got some big moves to do that exact thing, and I decide to go for a high jump kick, one-shotting the Krookodile. His Scrafty's last, and for this, I just decide to go for 2 Drain Punches, winning me my second Elite Four battle. For my next Elite Four battle, I decide to challenge Caitlyn. She leads the battle with Musharna as I lead with Neptune. Before this battle started, I usually would have given one of my Pokemon a Chesto Berry, but I actually forgot to get one before I walked into the Elite Four, so I can't set up freely against Musharna. Since I can't do that, I decide to give a Bug Gem to Neptune and go for a super powerful X-Scissor. I was really shocked when this didn't kill. It actually only brought Musharna to about 1/3, and she hits me with a yawn, so I'm gonna fall asleep. I decide to take my next turn to go for another X-Scissor to finish off the Musharna. She then brings in her next Pokemon, Gothitelle, and Neptune falls asleep. This actually forces me to switch, so I decide to move into Aloe. She hits me pretty hard with a Thunderbolt on the switch in, so I decide to set up with a Shift Gear on the next turn as she sets up with Calm Mind. I go for a Gear Grind that actually would have killed if she didn't have a Citrus Berry. Sadly, she did, and she goes for her Calm Mind. She's got really high special attack at this point, but thankfully I know she's going to heal in the next turn, so I decide to go for another Gear Grind. This brings her down to half as I'm able to get off one more Gear Grind in the next turn, finishing off Gothitelle, leading into her next Pokemon, Reniculus. Since Reniculus has Focus Blast, I decide to switch out with a Volt Switch. I move into Amps, who gets hit by a Focus Blast pretty hard, and I go for a Light Screen in the next turn. After that Light Screen, Reniculus can't really do anything to me, so I get off 2 Signal Beams, leading into her final Pokemon, Sigilyph. Sigilyph can do a lot of damage really fast, so I decide to switch into Aloe again. He tanks a Psychic on the switch in, but sadly his special defense falls, so I'm a little bit scared to keep him in for the remaining turns. I go for a Thunderbolt, doing a ton of damage to Sigilyph, bringing him a little bit above half, as he goes for another Psychic, bringing me to 57 HP. At this point, Amp's Light Screen goes down, so I'm really scared, and I decide to switch into Typhon. Typhon tanks his Psychic, and this allows me to easily get off a Rock Slide on the next turn, winning me my third Elite Four battle. With all 3 of those battles finished, I fight the last Elite Four member, Marshall. He leads the battle with Throw as I lead with Bruiser. I go for a bounce on the first turn, hitting Throw on the second, doing about half. He then hits me with a Bulldoze, lowering my speed as I go for another bounce, finishing off the throw. Marshall then sends in Menshao next, and this is actually really good. Seeing as Throw lowered my speed with the Bulldoze, I'm able to go after the Menshao, and she goes for a bounce, so I'm able to take her out on the next turn. I was really hoping he would send out Sawk next, but he decides to throw in Conkeldurr. I go for a high jump kick, doing about half as he heals with a Citrus Berry, and he one-shots me with a Hammer Arm. I move into Neptune and go for a Surf, bringing Conkeldurr to 1 HP as he hits me with a Hammer Arm, bringing me to 109. He heals with a full restore as I'm able to take him out with 2 more Surfs, bringing in his final Pokemon, Sawk. For this, I decide to switch back and forth between Pyro and Alloy to lower the Sawk's attack with Intimidate. This strategy works like a charm as I switch back into Neptune and go for a Surf, bringing the Sawk into Sturdy. I'm then able to go for an Aqua Jet, finishing off the Sawk and winning me my final Elite Four battle. At this point, the final thing left to do in this game is to challenge Champion Iris. I lead the battle with Typhon as she leads with Hydreigon. I'm faster, so I go for a Dragon Claw that one-shots due to my Dragon Gem. She moves into Lapras next, and since I know I'm going to need Typhon later in this battle, I decide to switch into Aloe. He doesn't get hit for very much damage on the switch in, but on the next, I go for a Thunderbolt, doing only about a third as she hits me super hard with a Surf, bringing me to 47 HP. After this, I decide to go for a Volt Switch and switch out into Amps. Amps gets hit a little bit hard with Surf, but it doesn't bring me below half, as on the next turn my Quick Claw pops and I go for a Thunderbolt, one-shotting the Lapras. She sends out Aggron next, and at this point Amps has served his purpose, and I decide to go for a few Fire Punches and watch Amps die. This does allow me to get a free switch into Neptune, and I'm able to one-shot the Aggron with his Surf. This then forces her to bring out Dredagon next, and I go for an Ice Beam, bringing him just to about a third as he hits me for a Focus Blast, not really doing much. I'm able to finish off Dredagon in the next turn with an Ice Beam as she brings out her next Pokemon, Haxorus. She goes for an Earthquake that doesn't kill, so I'm able to get off an Ice Beam that does a lot of damage, bringing Haxorus into the red. She then finishes off Neptune in the next turn with another Earthquake, so I decide to switch into Typhon. I really thought I was faster than her Haxorus, but apparently I'm not, as her Haxorus is able to one-shot mine with a Dual Chop. I really did not expect that whatsoever, so I decided to switch into Pyro, and I'm able to finish off her Haxorus with an Extreme Speed. This then causes her to bring in her final Pokemon, Archeops. Sadly, her Archeops is actually faster than Pyro, so he gets off a Rock Slide and is able to one-shot Pyro in the process. At this point, it's basically a wrap, as my final Pokemon has 47 HP and her Archeops is at full health. It would seriously take a miracle in order for me to win this fight. Her Archeops goes for a Rock Slide and misses, as I go for a Thunderbolt, doing over half. Even with this insane luck, if she just hits one Rock Slide, I'm basically dead. On the next turn, she goes for a Rock Slide and misses once more, as I'm able to get off another Thunderbolt, winning me my final battle against Champion Iris. For Rock Slide to miss twice, that's a 1 in 100 chance, and the fact that I got that in order to win the game is absolutely insane. Regardless, with all that being said, this run was extremely fun, and I'm really happy I got it done. I really wish you guys could have heard my reaction to that final battle, but sadly, OBS actually glitched out and it didn't record. It's fine though, because that was still a really good run, and I really hope you guys enjoy. With that all being said, that was my attempt at a Pokemon Black 2 Hardcore Nuzlocke with Monotype Pokemon only.